Welcome, wonderful dreamers. Tomato Mania is here again. Most mornings I have a look to see what I can harvest from the vegetable garden. And the main offering is the Roma tomatoes. And I check to see how the other plants are going. Once this basil plant is completely brown, I will be able to collect the seeds. The nights are starting to get cooler. So while the tomatoes are still ripening, they are becoming more peach than red. Well, not all of them. Apparently, when the nights get cooler, it slows down the pigment development that makes them deep red. However, they also maintain their structure more at this stage, which is actually perfect for what I am making today. Also, the garlic chives bloomed beautifully this year, and I will be able to harvest seed from them as well. Tomatoes here, tomatoes there, surrounded by Selenia. Tomatoes outside, tomatoes inside. It is Tomato Mania. The chives are blooming and look good in front of the zinnias. And I'm still getting a few slicing tomatoes. And while I'm waiting to see if the parsley seed I collected is viable and will grow, I'm still harvesting a little bit of fresh parsley from this little plant. Hi, Max. Are you enjoying the sunshine and the vegetable garden as it heads into autumn? I have about 5 or 6 pumpkins that are still growing. The butternut pumpkin is really starting to look good. Okay, I have to stop admiring the flowers and go inside and fix up all the tomatoes. Thank you for the local news, birdies. The first thing I have to do is make sure I get the pretty flowers in the water. I'm gonna sort my harvest and get all the tomatoes onto the table and make sure I don't throw out any of my parsley. Any tomato that is ready or nearly ready is rinsed with water and hung in a basket. When I'm ready to process that batch, the first thing I do is cut off the end where it was attached to the plant. Then I cut the core out of the tops so the end piece can be dehydrated. Then I weigh and record how much I have. Then I put the fresh tomato ends in a dehydrator and move the dehydrated ones to a jar to be turned to tomato powder later. I add the prepared tomatoes into a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer for a later date. I'm aiming to have between 6 and 9 kilograms of Roma tomatoes. And then I will make a pizza sauce or marinara sauce. However, today I am going to be water bath canning some bruschetta topping. When preserving food, it is advised to follow the instructions of the experts. I got the recipe for this from Ball, a very reputable company. I will put the link to their website in the description. The recipe calls for 9 cups of tomatoes. Between the Roma and cherry tomatoes I have, it worked out to be roughly 1.7 kilos or 3 pounds 12 ounces. I forgot to get the equipment ready. It may be safe to use, but I only use new lids with no defaults. But I will reuse the rings and the jars. I think the mixture will make 4 jars, maybe 5, but I will get 6 out just in case. New standards now say that everything can be sanitized in your dishwasher, for as long as the equipment is sanitized. Other words, cleaned with no food or soap residue. The sterilizing happens during the canning process, which I think is fantastic news because boiling everything first was definitely annoying. I put it on without any detergent as they are clean and just a bit dusty, and I don't want any soap residue. So once I finished dicing the tomatoes, I will make the liquid to go inside the jars. I'm going to add 5 cloves of homegrown Colossus garlic. There are a lot of aromas in the air, and adding the garlic is just chef's kiss. Unfortunately, I'm out of the basil I grew, so I'm just using dehydrated store-bought basil. Then I'm adding the balsamic vinegar. And some rice wine vinegar. Oh wait, I need more rice wine vinegar than that. Okay, I'm gonna add the rest. Next calls for dry white wine. I don't have any, so I'll just compensate with water. Because the white wine is about the flavor and not about the acidity, and replacing it with water will not lower the acidity, it is safe as a substitute. But to be safe, I will say, always check with the experts and follow the recipe. I put it on a medium heat and bring it to the boil. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of sugar, but I wanted to try it before adding it. The sugar won't affect the acidity as long as you don't go over the stated amount and only reduce. I decided this time I will add about a 1/4 teaspoon of raw sugar and see what that's like. Okay, the liquid's done, the tomatoes are chopped, and the jars are in the dishwasher. It's time to boil the water. Adding 1 to 2 tablespoons of vinegar to the water helps prevent mineral deposits and keeps the jars from going cloudy. The bruschetta will need to boil for 20 minutes. Because of where I live and the altitude, I will have to add another 5 minutes to all recipe times. The water is simmering, so it's time to get the jars ready. They're not too hot to touch, but they are quite warm, so when we put them in the water, the glass doesn't crack. Okay, now to pack the jars with the diced tomatoes. I usually put a little bit of liquid in the bottom of each jar first to help prevent air bubbles. I didn't remember, and that's all good. I can still make sure there's no air bubbles by using a chopstick. Okay, now to fill with the liquid until there's only about a 1/4 inch headspace. I'm just trying to mix it all around without spilling any over the edge. And then I use vinegar on a cloth just to make sure the rim is clean before adding the lid. The advice says when you're putting the rings on to tighten it to finger strength. You don't want them screwed on too tight. This allows air to escape and sucks the lid into place, giving you a perfect seal. Time for a swim. put the rack in so the jars don't touch the bottom. Some people use a tea towel. And I make sure that the jars don't touch each other. The water has cooled down a little bit, so I will need to bring it back up to boiling before I can start the timer. Okay, 25 minutes constant rolling boil. 25 minutes later. Now to leave them alone for 24 hours to listen out for the clack that lets you know each jar is sealed properly. Tomorrow, before I pack them away, I will label the lid. I can't believe we're in the 3rd year of Tomato Mania. I had a really good day today. Let me know what you think, wonderful dreamers, in the comments below. I hope you had a good day.